So welcome everybody to our joint webinar, looking a little bit deeper into a project that Contentstack, Uniform, and EPAM worked on together. And so just to give you guys a quick refresher of that, I just wanted to share a quick, very quick video just to sort of reiterate some of that, and then we'll get stuck right in. This is also going to give a few extra folks some time to join us as well. So here we go.
There's a new way to approach content personalization, a way that stops bucketing visitors into rigid personas and instead recognizes the wide variety of reasons a customer might interact with your brand, a way that lets content creators, designers, and developers work in parallel to deliver agile personalization on any channel, a way that leverages flexible cloud-native tools to drastically improve web performance and quickly see a return on investment. To show the possibilities it brings, Contentstack, Uniform, and EPAM teamed up to launch Project Q and bring personalization from 0 to live in just 12 weeks. Using Contentstack's agile Headless CMS and Uniform's intuitive personalization engine, the Project Q team created a booking experience for a hypothetical Las Vegas resort that aims to find the perfect entertainment and dining package for every guest. For instance, the homepage banner changes to reflect what the visitor has been browsing or what they've clicked on in a marketing email. And a sample quiz is used to improve suggestions for Vegas shows and restaurants. The mobile experience is delivered as a PWA, just one example of personalized content delivered at blazing fast speeds on any channel. When booking seats for a show, visitors are given dining options that match their tastes, party size, and schedule. There's also an easy way to add friends to the booking, so each attendee has access to a personal itinerary that can be viewed on any device. And to build excitement, once an event is booked, a homepage countdown banner starts ticking down to the big day. When digital experiences are made personal, exciting things start to happen. And when personalization is made simple, those exciting things happen a lot sooner.
All right, so now that we got the mandatory little marketing blurb out of the way, hopefully this has given a few folks some time to join with us. So let's just kind of get things kicked off here. So first off, welcome. Thank you guys for taking some time out of your day today. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good day, in whatever time zone you guys might find yourselves today. Again, just a warm welcome from all of us here, and by all of us, the three of us that are going to be kind of talking with you guys today. You have myself, Nick Barron. I head up our partner enablement team over here at Contentstack. I am located in sunny today, New Hampshire, in the northeast of the United States. And over to you, Max.
My name is Max. I'm a software engineer at EPAM.
And my name is Tony. I'm a principal sales engineer at Uniform.
All right. So I highly encourage you guys to make this as sort of collaborative of a session as possible, right? Feel free to use the chat feature, ask questions in the question and answer section, right? We want to make sure that you guys are getting the most out of this sort of experience as possible. So please, be interactive, ask questions, even what our favorite kind of coffee is, whatever it might be. Just get yourself engaged to make sure that you're getting the most out of this time.
Okay, so let's start talking about why we're using a Mac architecture now. Let's go to the next slide, and we will see that 10 or 5 years ago, that interplay between Contentstack and Uniform that you will able to see today wasn't possible. That's because the dominant type of architecture were suites. And as you can see on these slides, Suite has all the stuff. It has front-end hosting, CMS, and it was comfortable because if you want to create a store or other site or something else, you have one in one place. But this approach doesn't support the innovation. So if we go to the next stage, some parts, we could see that some parts started to separate it and creating own APIs and platforms. And now this is what we see on the third step. We can say that suites devolve in a sense into a group of different platforms. Each of them serves the functions, but do it in much more elegant way. Let's see how it looks with examples. If we talk about suites, we could see the names that are presented on the slide. And as I said earlier, it's this approach doesn't support the innovation, and the development speed also increases if we are able to customize our stuff by using other solutions that are available. So on experience-led stage, we have some platforms start separating, but it was still in a sense a part of a monolith, and it wasn't enough separation that developers needed and speed that marketers needed to innovate. And now what we have is a Mac-based or API-led era that and all the components of that suite are now broken into the separate APIs and multiple players that are creating platforms and tools for us for our particular need. And we can very quickly customize things for our project or select the solution sets that we want. And this brings us as flexibility and speed that wasn't possible 10 years ago. Okay, let's talk more about Mac architecture and what it means. The Mac Alliance presents and advocates for open and best-of-breed enterprise technology ecosystem. Let's go for each letter one by one. First, it's microservices, so individual pieces of business functionality are independently developed, deployed, and managed. API first, that means that all functionality is exposed through API. Cloud native talks us about that system as a service that leverages cloud beyond storage and hosting, also includes elastic scaling and automatic updating. And headless means that front-end and back-end part are decoupled, so we can choose the technologies that we want, the platforms that we want, and the frameworks. Okay, let's pass the word to Tony. So Tony will show us how to build a website based on Mac.
Thank you, Max, for the introduction to Mac architecture. And in today's sessions, you will learn how to build personalized omnichannel experience without any trouble. And we're going to start off by giving a quick overview that you've just seen, or maybe if you were a little bit late, we ran a little video in the beginning. So we built a ultimate omnichannel personalization experience, which we gave a secret code name and called it Project Q, a collaboration between Contentstack, Uniform, and EPAM. And this amazing project was built in less than 4 sprints for a fictitious luxury resort in Las Vegas called Balbianello. And why did we build this out? We wanted to show the capabilities of Mac Alliance partners and modern tools in action. What you will walk away today with is in-depth explanation of how the site was built, an architecture diagram, and starter kits that will help you get started with these tools really fast. First, we'll start with personalization. And companies that are personalizing the web experiences get ROI increased to 19%. That's based on e-consultancy report. And think about it, if it's an e-commerce site, the results could be 19% increase in sales. So our journey of the site is going to be starting from top left, and we're going to end up in the profile page on the bottom right. We're going to start visiting the website. There's not going to be any personalization. Then as soon as we visit the offer page for a specific offering that's offered by that resort, we will execute some behavioral personalization signal, which we'll dive into in a little later slides. And then we'll return back to homepage, and our web experience will be personalized now for us. And as you can probably see on that small screenshot that we'll zoom in on to later, is that top image has been changed. Then the experience continues as we are sending an email to our visitors based on the information that provided to us that they're visiting the resort for a specific conference. They'll receive a promotional email, which will have a call to action in their email. And once they click on it, they will end up on our website again. But now the personalization continues, and a special offer takes over, and the picture changes right there on our hero component. And the reason for that is because the intent that came from the email is much more stronger and more targeted, and the experience has to be changed now. It's not a rule, it's just a different intent. And then a booking takes place, and we go through selecting how many people are gonna attend the show. We're mapping it with a restaurant, and then we're selecting the presets that a restaurant is providing us. Then we're filling out all the information, the booking takes place, and it's over now. So we were able to act on the information that came to us through email. We booked our event, and then we ended up on the homepage again. And now we see the most relevant personalization. We're not being targeted with a Swan Lake show because we just booked it. So we're back to the previous personalized homepage, which is showing us the fountains again. And obviously we have a profile page that we also built out, and we're going to talk about that as well, where we see our itinerary and some personalization badges and personalized content of a user. So moving forward, just to kind of zoom in a little bit on the website to show you there's two components that I would like you to focus on right now that are personalized. Top one is a personalized hero component, and then we have a personalized list of offers component. And as we're navigating through our site, if we'll just go to the next slide, we'll see that on the homepage, there's no personalization. Once we visit details of a page of a specific offer and come back home, personalization kicks in. So there's no rules that are being set up. It's an intent that a visitor is having when they're visiting a page. So they intended to learn more about Fountains of Balbianello, and that is why they're seeing that specific hero component. And if we go further, we'll see that actually personalization now kicks in on those two components that I just highlighted earlier, is the homepage hero component and the list. And as we can see, both components have been personalized with the Fountains offer page. So let's kind of now go and talk about how all of this comes together behind the scenes. So first of all, in CMS, we need to add an intent to a specific content. So intent tagging happens in the CMS. Then in the code running on the CDN, we provide an array list of objects with all the variations that are passed in as props into our personalized hero component. And based on the user request on the page and intent execution, you will see the most relevant personalized content. So that is on CMS, but what about in the code? So with Uniform SDK on the next slide, and since we're using, Next in our project, and Uniform supports just vanilla JS as well as Vue as well as React. So this is a component for React specific projects. And what we see here is a personalized component that comes with our SDK, and it has the name of the component, variations of those slides that are being passed in as props. And then we have obviously tracking information that we're able to dispatch to your analytics engine of your choice. And obviously then a component name is our hero banner component. So little break from kind of and little dive into philosophy behind Uniform Optimize. So our philosophy is based on a simple paradigm. The visitors of your site have an intent. They have something they want to accomplish and a reason for their visit. So personalization aims to make it as easy as possible for the visitor to accomplish their intent. And with Uniform, you can build up the real-time intent profiles for every user or for every visitor, and to make sure that to make those personalization decisions very easy. We see here different intents. All of these intents were created on the first day of our development. When the website was being built, we in parallel started building content. We started creating content in CMS. We started creating intents in Uniform. So we didn't have to wait for a second or third or fourth sprint to be complete, a whole site to be ready. We started right away to build out all the personalization kind of scenarios that we needed and we knew at that moment in time. And with every intent, there's signals that are represented under each intent. So if we go to the next slide, I would like to actually the fountains. Let's take a look at the fountains interactivity with the page. So within Uniform, we have a intent which is represented as fountains, and inside of that fountains intent, we have a signal, and we can have multiple signals that can add to scoring or it can remove scoring. So we identify a visitor's intent by a signal that they send, and that signal is a behavior that's happening on the site. And signals can cause a change of visitor scoring in a specific intent. It can be a behavior of showing specific content. It can be a value from a cookie. It could be a marketing campaign. And here we have just a page visit. And once somebody visits an offer page / fountains right there, if you can see on that screen, then we'll assign 50 points to that specific user. And then on the next slide, I would like to cover the scenario with the push notification for our progressive web app. So kind of the same thing as we've seen earlier in intents and signals, but now we also added a CMS here. So CMS data plus Uniform intent is put together, and everything is pushed from our site via our serverless functions that we'll dive into in further slides, and sends a push notification. Once a visitor acts on that push notification, then the personalization execution occurs. And what we've seen here, we have created a new offer called Grand Canyon Adventure. We created an intent stating that when a visitor visits a page, which equals a specific URL, they will get a 75 points. And then the push notification is happening with the help of Next.js and one of the libraries. And then Uniform actually takes over in the client side and reevaluates a signal strength that just been executed, and then bumps the Grand Canyon Adventure to the top of the offer list. So with this, we can see that personalized experience can go from nothing on the left to a fully personalized experience on the right. We have our itinerary in our profile page, everything that we just booked, as well as we have personal information that's coming from a provider that we're logging into and grabbing data of a person, as well as we have some badges there for personalized intents. So with all of this, how you can get started in 3 easy steps and deploy live site with personalization under 15 minutes. You can visit our website, uniform.app, create a free account, create a project, and then kind of build out your Jamstack by selecting Headless CMS Contentstack. Our hosting provider we utilized in this project was Netlify, and then you can use a static site generated Next.js and build your Jamstack. And with this, once you build it out, next you probably want to go ahead and manage your content and start building it all out and kind of do your modeling in Contentstack. So over to you, Nick.
Sure. Thanks, Tony. Yeah, and I think that's a great segue. And a bunch of there's going to be some links dropped into the chat. So go ahead and, take a look at those when you have a few minutes. It'll get you access to, things like our starter apps, what Tony was just showing. So there's a whole bunch of useful stuff there. But in the meantime, one of the things that we need to kind of talk about, right, at the heart of any good, web project or omnichannel project is going to be your content management system, right? So the first thing that we want to start thinking about in having these hyper-personalized omni-channel experiences is really making sure that we have content that can scale. And what I mean by that is content that isn't being stored as channel-specific typing, right? So having things like JSON data as opposed to having HTML, and really thinking about being able to create rich editor experiences so that folks can come through and create, one offer that we can see in this kind of screenshot, right, for the Swan Lake Ballet. And it is complete enough that all of the information that we need for, let's say, the hero banner, for one of those listing boxes that we saw, or even sending that information out through a push notification or an Alexa skill or an app, anything, right? We want to make sure that we have all of the information that we need for that one piece of content all in one place. So making sure that we sort of scale that out so that we can ensure that we're getting all of that information out to whatever channel is requesting it in real time. And so to connect that, sort of advanced content modeling to something like Uniform is actually really easy. So one, it'll just happen if you go through those steps that Tony outlined, where you can actually use their starter tool to build out an app. But if you wanted to go ahead and maybe you already had a stack set up in Contentstack and you wanted to install Uniform, it's really easy to configure that, right? All you need to do is put in a URL in your extensions area, and then provide some config parameters. So nice and straightforward to be able to do that. And if you do need to get a Contentstack account set up, a link was actually just put in the chat as well. So if you need a stack, feel free to sign up for that, and we'll get you guys provisioned ASAP. But once that has been set up, right, you now have the extension that creates that sort of communication between Uniform and Contentstack. The next thing that we want to do is put that control, that custom field, that extension onto our different content models. And you can see here, we were talking about those offers before. I can simply install that or add that into my content model after the fact as well. And this kind of goes back to what Tony was talking about, where we had, in order to make sure that we could hit this, 3 and change kind of sprint setup that we had going, we had folks working on content modeling at the same time. We had, folks setting up their intents in Uniform, as we had people starting to develop some of those front end, repositories of code. So it's really beneficial to be able to just add these things in, when and where we need to. And it's really simple just to take and drag and drop that field into our different content models, so that we can then say, if this offer is consumed, it's expressing someone's intent. So by consumed, maybe that's viewed on the website, or maybe that's read out in a smart skill, or viewed on a mobile app. There's a lot of ways someone can consume that, but then we can also use that to help that sort of that personalization experience Tony was talking about. So when it comes time to say, okay, I need to reorder this list, or out of my 10 different banners that I can show on the homepage, pick the one that's best for this person at this moment of time. So being able to do that and leveraging some of the advanced functionality within things like Contentstack allows us to take these different components and add them in as modular blocks, so that the editors have total freedom of what's going to show up when and where, and they can really design that page layout. And we're really creating this as sets of lists, right? And that's very important to personalization. We want a repository. We want a big list, an array of data that the personalization engine gets to choose from, to say, for Tony, it's going to be the fountains. For Nick, it's going to be the fine art gallery. For Max, it's going to be the Swan Lake Ballet, right? The system can make those decisions in real time at the edge of the CDN as well, which is pretty impressive. But enough about content. Let's start getting into the nuts and bolts of things, shall we?
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Let's talk about the other technologies that we choose for the project. First of all, as Tony already mentioned, we've been using Next.js. Why we choose it, you can see on the slide. It has a lot of benefits such as hybrid static and server rendering. So we couldn't even re-render, we could pre-render pages on a build time, and if someone change something in the content stack, we can even rebuild it. So our pages will be ready to be served for the user as fast as possible. Also, file system routing. This is for developers. It's very easy to understand where to create a route and on which path it will have, which URL it will have. API routes, we will be using them a little bit later. I'll show you how to by using API routes implement push notifications, and also such features as fast refresh, TypeScript, and we also use it because we could start very fast without any configuration. But in fact, we've started from one of the templates that are based on the Next.js, and they are also available on these links that we've dropped in the chat. So you could take these templates, and they already have CMS integration and personalization. So you can start implementing your ideas even faster. Okay, so we need a database to store the data before we start implementing an authentication. We need to store something the session, and we've decided to use Firebase because Firebase also have Firebase messaging that will be useful for push notification. And let's see what benefits Firestore has. It has a very powerful query language, and also it's easy to scale. And this database supports flexible hierarchical data structures and designed for scale and also secure. And let's see how to set up Firebase. So go to the next slide and one more. And here's the first step. First of all, we need to register the project and get Firebase config. We will be getting two configs, one for client side and one for server side. You will see later why, because from server we are communicating while receiving a push notification and passing it to Firebase. But you could also see how to get these configs in the links. There is a link to much more detailed documentation, but these configs will look like you see on the slide. Step 2, we need to install packages. As a front-end developer, I'm doing this like almost every day. It's a simple step. We need to install Firebase and Firebase admin for server. And step 3, first of all, we need to import Firebase and Firestore, and also create an instance of Firestore that you could see on the line 4. So we are passing an options from the configs that we already get. This is how initialization happens on the client side. Please note that env variables, that config variables should be put it in env variables because it's much more secure, and nobody gonna steal them from repository. Let's see how it works on backend side. Yeah. At first, we need to import Firebase admin and then also initialize an app with the credentials that we get on the step 1. Okay, so the next step will be to implement an authentication. And for the authentication, we've decided to select a Next.js. This library supports many popular sign-in services, and also it supports different databases, and you can even take any database and write your own provider for it. But for Firebase, I already have a provider, so let's set up it. Okay, so on the first step, we need to get host credentials. We need to get client ID and client secret, and also don't forget to configure an authorized origins, so our application and Google will know which URIs are he will allow to send the data. Yeah. And also install the packages for NextOS and Firebase adapter, and you will see how it works on the next slide. First of all, we are importing NextOS, then providers on the line 2, and Firebase adapter and admin from the files that we are already installed. Next, we creating an instance of NextOS and passing to its data with client ID and client secrets, and also on line 14 an adapter for Firebase. NextOS will implement IP routes for us, and this is how it works. We click login, we are able to log in with our Google account, and then on the profile page we will see the data that are passed from the provider, and also in Firebase, in the Firebase Firestore, we will see this data too, that somebody is registered. Okay, let's go to the PWA. PWA is a technology that brings for your application and interactivity, and this interactivity looks like native application. So this is there are the benefits that you could get by implementing a PWA for your application. So what do we need for PWA? First of all, we need to serve our application on an HTTPS, so it will be a secure way. Also, we need to implement few service workers. We'll show you later how to do that for push notifications. And also we need a manifest file. Let's go to the next slide to see how it looks. It looks like this. It's just a JSON configuration that has metadata for your application. This metadata will be used to show a splash screen while we open an application that has been added to the home screen. There are a lot of generators in the web, how to generate this manifest file, and also you could provide them an icon that you want for an installed application. They will give you a set of icons and instructions how to configure them. Okay, so let's talk about push notifications and how they work. First of all, we already know that Contentstack is able to publish webhooks. So when some content manager is creating a new offer, the webhook triggers our API route, and API route tells Firebase that that new offer is published, and Firebase could send notification to all the subscribers. Also, here we could trigger different events for Firebase, so we can specify a lot of them on each action. But how to subscribe to the Firebase? We could see this process on the next slide. First of all, we need to get a webit key from Firebase, and as soon as we get it, we need to initialize Firebase messaging, and after it will send a confirmation pop-up for a user to if he want to receive the push notifications. If yes, by using this webit key, we could send a request to Firebase, and it will give us another token. And by using this token, we could subscribe to different topics to Firebase. So we are passing this token to our another API route and subscribing it to a Firebase. Let's see how it works in code. First of all, on this step, that's what I was talking about on the previous slide. We've been importing Firebase messaging. After that, we are passing a webit key on line 9. We are getting a token and sending this token to our API route. Let's go to API route part. This API route handles the post request and sends by using an admin SDK from Firebase, subscribing our clients to the topic by this token. Let's go to the next slide. And when our application, when Contentstack webhook is triggering our API route will do this code. It will call the messaging and send all the information that are required for our notification. For instance, here we could see that notification, we are passing an icon for notification, title, and link. And if we click on this link, we will be redirected to it. All this could be configured in Contentstack, and it's very easy to do. Okay, so we also need to implement a service worker and initialize Firebase messaging there. So what's happening here is when Firebase messaging will receive a notification about that it should show push notifications to user, they will pass it to our service worker that are monitoring the state of notifications. So here we also need to initialize our application and just call get messaging from Firebase, and this call under the hood will call and listen for updates. Okay, and this is how it works. So for on the left picture, we are seeing that publishing entry process. We are sending it, and then we could see some logs with that data from the entry and how our notification will look like on Windows Chrome. So that's all from my side. Thanks. Nick, could you explain this architecture?
All right. So just to kind of wrap up everything that Nick, if you don't mind, I will kind of run over this this slide real quick. So as we can see here, we have Contentstack, Uniform, Next, and Firebase, and how all of them are integrating together. So Next.js is holding our decoupled personalization, our content. It's all building a static package with some dynamic routing in there, because we have to interact with a Firebase to log in, as well as to push data there, to store all the customer booking information itineraries, as well as we'll have to have an ability to push out push notifications by new offers that have been published from within Contentstack. So the flow is pretty simple, right? So we're starting in our CMS, and from within CMS we have access to our intent data that's coming from Uniform. Upon a new content creation or a new intent creation, a webhook is being triggered, which triggers a build from within our platform wherever we have our pipelines execution happening. In our case, it was Netlify, and Netlify would receive a webhook information and build out content based on our Next.js code base that's sitting and residing in our repository in Git. And then all of that just comes together and publishes into production. At that moment, interaction happens mostly with Firebase, because the only dynamic data that's necessary is stored in non-relational DB, which is Firestore, and the personalization execution happens client side, and content coming from Contentstack is mostly all the new offers that are being published as soon as they're being entered into a CMS. So with that, this sums up our presentation. And if there's no questions at this moment, feel free to go through the links that were shared earlier in a README file. If you have any questions, you can reach out to any one of us at Contentstack, EPAM, or Uniform, and then we'll be happy to give you a further deep dives into our project.